It's always an honor to have the opportunity to share with young people. It's a privilege to sit before my big sisters here, and I'm totally overwhelmed. When I was invited to join the panel today, I was thinking, what's this old woman doing with all these fine young ladies? But then I thought to myself, you know what? It's important for women to tell their stories. The reasons why women were marginalized for so long is partly because we were not telling our stories. We were taught to be humble. But sharing your story does not make you anything other than humble. It's actually a very humbling experience. And to have the courage and the confidence to share what you may have endured in life or encountered, whether good or bad, what that does is that it empowers others, it encourages others, and it serves as a guiding light to those who may find themselves in similar situations. And so today I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I didn't have the typical growth process. I didn't have the typical experiences that a lot of young women had. I'm not going to go all the way back into my childhood days, but I'll start from the year 2000, because that's when I graduated from the Ghana Institute of Journalism. Prior to that, I had had very interesting experiences. I was fortunate to have gotten a job at Joy FM when it had first begun operation. And so myself and people like Komla Dumor, Dorinando, Gabi Ajete, and several others were the pace setters when the media landscape began to experience a proliferation. I was making money at a very young age. When I was at the School of Journalism, I didn't have the typical student experience because I was so busy working and enjoying what would have been called the celebrity life. And so I had it going well for me. A year after graduation, I met and married my husband, who thought that he was very traditional in his thinking. He thought, my beautiful wife shouldn't be stressing and working and calling another man her boss. And so why don't you just stay at home, enjoy living in the mansion, enjoy whatever resources I bring to the table. I have enough to look after us and our children. I never struggled on the relationship market. In fact, I was hardly on the relationship market. I met my husband. Within 3 months, I was traditionally married. Within a year, I had had my church wedding. 9 months after I'd had my first child. So I don't have stories to tell you about some of the typical difficulties that women face. But I have a story that I hope would wake a lot of women up. And that story is that I was never content with living in a mansion and driving a Mercedes and a Land Cruiser and a Nissan Patrol and whatever else. I was never content with traveling around the world as and when I willed. I was never content in having my children going to the best schools. My spirit was restless. I needed to add value to myself. What I walked out of the Ghana Institute of Journalism with was not enough for me. And so even while I had the luxuries and the pleasures of living the life of Riley, if you want to call it, I kept adding value to myself. Piled on one degree after the other, piled on one professional qualification after the other. Fast forward, after 14 years of marriage, when a typical young woman may have been very, very comfortable, enjoying her life, tragedy struck. I woke up one day and my husband, who was the sole breadwinner of our family, had been brutally murdered. The world did not give me peace to grieve. The world did not give me peace to even come to terms with the change in my circumstances. My only good fortune is that I had education. And I swear by education. That was my lifesaver, because I went from living in my mansion to living in my friend's outhouse. I could have gone to my mother's house. I could have gone to my sister's house. I did not want to get comfortable. I knew that if I did, I would never bounce back. My spirit remains restless. And so I went from there, consider the top of this auditorium building, to right under your feet. Everything was taken away from me, except my children and my education. I speak to a lot of people who say to me, oh, but why are you at UPSA? You know, you could find a job that would pay you a lot better in the private sector. You could be out there doing one thing or the other. No, I swear by education. Education is the reason why I am still on my feet and I still have my head up. And I have the audacity to sit here to speak to you today. Even when men decided to victimize me, to drag me through the mud, and dig me deeper into a ditch that I do not know who dug, but they decided that it was convenient to attack me publicly and do the unthinkable to a poor woman who had suddenly had her life turned upside down. It was women who held my hand. And today I want to publicly acknowledge my older sister, Sheba. She's the reason I stand here today. She gave me the courage. She assured me. Women like Honorable Abla Gomashi, I call her my big sister. Women like Abba, I'm about to get emotional.
Please, let's clap for her so she doesn't. I'm so proud of you, Ivy.
I know you are. In some of the deepest, darkest moments of my life, it was women who held my hand. And even if they did nothing, they spoke words of encouragement to me. And it was women who encouraged me to pursue higher education. And it is still women who are telling me you have to finish that doctorate. You see, we cannot stand alone. We cannot stand by ourselves. Our collective success depends on the individual efforts of each and every one of us. And even if you don't take anything away from this room, it's the fact that it's your responsibility as a woman, because nobody would do it for you. It's your responsibility, one, to build yourself up so that you can help another woman to build herself up. It's your responsibility as a woman to tell your story so that when somebody thinks that they're experiencing the worst, when somebody thinks that it's the end of the world, your story will remind them that just when the cocoon thought life was over, it became a butterfly. And the final thing I'm going to say, especially to the young women in this room, don't let anybody fool you. Look, anything and everything can be taken away from you. But what you've got up here, your education, is the one thing that nobody can ever take away from you. Let them take your certificates. I remember there was a time when somebody, certainly not a woman, told me, oh, you will crawl. I said, who, me? One, you don't know the God I serve. Two, you forget that I can go back to the institutions where I studied and get all my certificates back, even if you take them and burn them. And so I just want to encourage every single young woman in this space, don't miss out ever on an opportunity to add value to yourself. It's not just about formal education. If you have to learn a skill, learn it. If a man tells you stay at home, if it works for you to be there for your children or whatever, you may choose to listen, but don't get content. Don't get confused. Add value to yourself, always and all the time. Because a day may come when nobody would look your way. A day may come when friends and family may turn their backs to you. A day may come, God forbid, if you lost your husband like I did mine, his family and friends would carry on like you don't exist, and you will have your children on your necks. Add value to yourself. And don't ever miss out on opportunity to hold another woman's hand because you never know what the next woman is going through.